You good to go? Let's go.
Thank you, Carlton, for having us. Yeah, I appreciate the invite. Obviously, Jake and I know each other for a little while now. How would I describe Jake? A good friend, mentor, more to him than meets the eye. Yeah, an interesting character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Key aspect about that is mentor. Like, a lot of people don't know this about us. Like, we come across like brothers, but our relationship formed from the fact that I was first Adam's tutor after he flunked his first year of A-levels in the UK.
Okay.
So,
You just need to find.
what'd you get?
I can't fight fate. It was all part of the plan.
So yeah, I got a call one day from Adam's mum saying, look, my son's really good at school, but he's just been playing FIFA all year long on PlayStation, and he's absolutely messed up his exams. I was like, cool, let me come in and see what I can do. Met him. He was first in the Costa coffee shop. He was uninterested, but eventually as time gone on, he learned everything that I was saying to him, and it just evolved more from like I was his tutor. It was more like a, how can we build from here? How can we like take things to the next level? And like, even from our first journeys of like going into the corporate world, like what's our best strategy? Which company should we go for? Like eventually become that, I'd help him with something, he'd help me with another. So, and that's formed to how we got here really to Dubai now.
Right. And in this short span, you guys went through the corporate journey, and also a very interesting one. You guys started off in the Big Four.
Yeah. Well, so Jake was at LSE. That's like you said, just carrying on that story. And just to give like a little extra tip of that, or a little addition to that, is that like, as Jake was saying, we have this sort of brother-like relationship, although we've only really known each other for, say, 7 years, which maybe in the grand scheme of sort of friendships which have this sort of depth doesn't seem that long. But I think our journey has been riddled with different sort of speed bumps and trials and tribulations, which adds that depth and intensity that maybe some other relationships might not have. But we can get to those like little stories towards the end. But anyway, Jake was at LSE, and then he dropped out. We teamed up, and he was convincing me from day one, do not go to uni. And obviously, Asian communities, especially in the UK, to any of the UK viewers, you sort of have the blinders on, and it's like, you got to go to uni, it's got to be Russell Brick, and these are the sort of courses you're doing. It's normally like STEM courses, so science, technology, economics, maths, around these sort of subjects. But out of nowhere, this young guy, all A stars, like star-studded resume, is telling me, scrap that, go against the status quo and follow this route I'm taking. And yeah, like 6 months down the line, I come out, end up being in economics, ironically.
Full marks, by the way.
Wow, nice, very nice.
So ended up smashing my A-levels after having Jake's guidance and resitting all of them. But resat them all, could have got into the unis I wanted, but ended up going to Ernst & Young. And I think, Jake, you went to Deloitte, right?
Yeah. See, that was my thing. Like, as soon as I got to LSE from day one, I sat at my first lecture. I was like, I'm not meant to be here. And I'd had friends there. I'd been on like summer schools there. I'd had connections with them. I was always very tunnel vision. That everyone was telling me to go to university. No one in my family had really been to university. So I thought, like, this is my opportunity to be the first, like, start that legacy, if you like. But as soon as I got there, I was just like, I don't think this is best for my development for the next 3 years to sit here and basically teach myself for $9,000 a year under a great university, great resources, great name. But I felt as a 19-year-old, I think even 18 then, I'd be better suited just going to work in the real world. And at 18, 19, sitting across from some CEOs, CFOs, hearing their strategies, seeing how their minds work, that was the best education at that age. Like, that was faultless. And that's what I was saying to Adam at the time. Like, yeah, if you want to like go to university, get a degree, fantastic. You're still going to be successful, but you want to have an edge in your career. Because as an 18-year-old, I came in with people who had just graduated from university. Some people even had master's degrees, and we started at the same level. Yeah, they had a slightly higher salary, but if anything, it put us at a massive advantage because they'd done their exams quicker for their chartered accountancies. We'd be in the office more. So after a year, we basically knew the job a lot better than graduates. So I think it was the same as you as well, right?
Yeah, pretty much identical. Our sort of programs were, like I said, identical. But there was, at that point in time, there was no sort of differentiation or separation between the quality of work that the new joiners from school were getting, and obviously these masters and graduates that have spent XYZ amount of money and years trying to perfect their skills to get a higher paying job or to land in a career that is best suited for their requirements.
So how did it sink in with your parents? Adam, Jake? Who would want to go first?
Yeah, I think, like, again, coming back to what I was saying, no one in my family had really gone to university. My mum and dad started working when they were 15, 16, so they had like a work-based idea of what I should do next anyway. Like, they were always very supportive of going to university, but as Adam said, like, I'd pretty much self-taught one of my A-levels. I'd done 5 A-levels in total. I went to a school where some of the subjects that I was doing weren't supported, so to get to LSE was a huge achievement then. So when I was telling people I'm thinking about dropping out, everyone looked at me like, are you crazy? Do you know what kind of opportunity you're leaving behind? And I don't know if when we met I dropped out yet, or if I was in the process of dropping out. I can't really remember. I don't know if you did.
I don't think you had. You were still in the process.
I think when I told you even looked at me like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is the point I'm trying to get to and you're dropping out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it hit home for you that maybe this guy's onto something.
100%.
But honestly, my parents were probably the only 2 people who said, yeah, drop out, go do something. Because I think they saw in me like how my energy was, how my aura was. I wasn't enjoying it. Like, they could see I wanted to do something else. So for them, they were like, do whatever you need to do, whatever support you need, we're here for it. So like, that's always been how my parents have raised me. Like, whatever I want to put my energy and focus onto, they'll be behind that 100%. So yeah, I'm fortunate. But again, yeah, there's definitely some cultural differences there where I might have had that blessing as well.
Similar sort of setup. Although my parents are obviously Asian heritage. My father was a blue collar worker. My mother was a primary school teacher. Obviously educated to that extent, but they're very modern, very Western, like forward thinking. And they were just happy with whatever decision I made. They obviously knew I was going to be successful in their eyes, regardless of what career path I chose. So they allowed me the freedom to make that decision for myself. And obviously we had certain situations that arose around that time, which taught us lessons that education can't teach. And that really puts a different perspective and frame on your decision making.
And from there, how did your journey begin? So you decide to do it by yourself. You go into the Big Four and the competition. Competing with the ones who are graduated, who have their masters. That's what you mentioned.
Yeah.
How did that go?
My cohort, your cohort, probably felt the same way, that working in these big companies, you are very much just a resource to them, and that if you leave, you'll be replaced the next day. And fantastic, it's a business model that works, but I think as an individual level, you need more value than that. But saying that, sometimes we look back and we have the discussions, as I was saying, but it gave us the education that we have to this day. And I think when we first got to Dubai in real estate, something completely different, one of the first things Adam said is we didn't know we'd been training for this our whole lives. And one of the big things was the journeys we had in the Big Four, because at the very minimum, it gave us the ability to speak in financial lingo, understand how these clients and these high net worth individuals think, and have these conversations. Like, I've been having these conversations all this week about someone's discounted cash flow, and I think there's not every broker in Dubai can have that conversation. It just gives us that leverage, that recognition that we're not just 2 ordinary real estate brokers that typically that's a job you go into after you finish high school education. So yeah, it's, for me, I might look back and think, oh yeah, it was frustrating. You know, there was times I was working 10-hour days and then having to study until like 1 a.m. after, and it was draining. I didn't really have much of a social life. Probably getting underpaid for what I was doing compared to like some other people as well. But at the same time, when I was a senior associate, about 21 years old, I was leading and managing some projects. I was producing models that were higher than my other friends were doing who were at university and partying. So like, in that sense, you have to be quite grateful and humble that you had the opportunity, you was able to do this and then go on to bigger things, really.
Yeah, eloquently put. I agree with Jake. It's more reflecting on it. It may not have lived up to the expectations when you see sort of the Big Four in the spotlights per se, but reflecting on how much it offered us in terms of just even brand and leverage to that extent, it's irreplaceable. And as soon as we came to Dubai, you could see that clientele, especially those who work in these sort of luxury villas where we're trying to differentiate ourselves, they really appreciate that history and that quality of service.
Any time during this journey, especially when you started off, you felt like this was not the right choice, or you just knew that was what you wanted?
No.
Right from the get-go?
When we first came, it was obviously a lot of learning.
You mean to Dubai?
Yeah.
No, I mean when you joined the Big Fours, yes. Because that was your first job. That was your first corporate experience.
I think a lot of my cohort that I joined with, I think we kind of had like imposter syndrome in a way that, are we good enough to be here? Like there's a massive age gap when you come in at that age,
Yes.
and like you're working with these big clients expected to produce results. There's not really much room for error. Sometimes you are there like, should I be here? Should I be doing this? But yeah, it's just a learning curve. Like you ask the right questions, you have the right support team in place, and like you do pick things up quite quickly, particularly when you're doing your chartered accountancy, which we both were. The education alongside the client work supplemented one another. And sometimes it probably got to the point where we were doing exams and we'd already learned what we were doing exams on through the corporate work. So yeah, it was a challenge. And I think that's the main thing for me. I always struggled juggling everything, particularly when you're in depth of exam season. Like you have these books this big to learn, you're doing 2 or 3 exams at once, and you've also got to deliver at work as well. And have a social life. It's just, yeah, I think sleep is the one that went out the window for me.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing, is just managing like expectations. I think that was one of the first things like my work mentor told me, is like coming to like the Big Four and dealing with these sort of clients where that was the niche I was specializing in. It's the hardest thing was to manage expectations and making sure like everyone you're working with, including your colleagues and the clients, knew exactly where everything was. But apart from that, I think the structure of the programs, and looking back at what they've got going on now in the UK, they've only got better and better. I do think it's a lot better option than going to university on reflection.
Yeah, I mean, like my department, I was the first intake where it wasn't graduates. So I think some people there kind of looked at us, what do we do with these 18, 19-year-olds? What can they do? And like, I think they were pleasantly surprised by the end of it when we were in having these client discussions, building models, able to actually contribute as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely successful. It's definitely a learning curve as well. And I remember like one of the first times I got asked to speak on a call and then like have that interaction with a client, I was like, what do I do here? But you just, like with anything, you adapt, you learn, like repetition, like you get feedback and you take things from there. And so, yeah, overall it was a positive journey. But yeah, I think Adam and I always say we could have probably cruised to the top there or gone to like similar companies and done very well. But for us, there was always something lacking, or it wasn't, I think, particularly where we have like sports background as well, it lacked that competition, lacked that like winning moment, so to speak. It was always just like repetition, more or less the same thing, which I don't think we were cut out for in something fulfilling in that respect.
You did mention about your work mentor. What was your support system like when you just out of you're 18, you enter the corporate? Any kind of support system you got?
I mean, we had like a graduate team, so to speak. So you'd have like a couple contacts there. I was partnered with someone in the year above who's like your buddy. So like any questions you shouldn't ask like a director or something, you go to them. But to be fair, in all respects, like everyone was quite approachable. Like you could go up to anyone about anything and like pick their brains, like ask what to do next. So like in my department, it was very much, you had business services, technology, oil, private equity. You could go and try out a lot of things. And I did that in my first 2 years. I tried a bit of everything to see what industries I liked, and people gave you that opportunity and freedom and gave you that time as well. So yeah, it was definitely very supporting. It's just like, I think that you always wanted to do more and more, and that you was kind of restricted by sometimes being pulled out of college. Sometimes there was like a understanding gap that, you're still quite new there and you can't do everything at the same time. I don't know if that was the same for you, Adam.
Yeah, it's pretty similar sort of model. Like obviously these are huge established companies, right? So just on a large scale, they have these genuine support systems from hierarchy and down, but within it, they have the buddy system, and then they have specialists which you can go to if you need technical information. But the whole culture is still very friendly, albeit that the system is built in a way that people come in and out of the company is somewhat like a revolving door, is the analogy I've heard before. It doesn't change the fact that it's all people still working inside the companies, and it is like quite a friendly place when you are inside it, for sure.
So if you don't mind me asking you, gents, what is your highest qualification?
Mine's chartered accountancy.
Mine is partial accountancy.
Okay. Yeah. Any advice to the youngsters who are graduating, doing the schools, trying to graduate, trying to do your masters? What advice do you have for them as the 18-year-olds you were back then, trying to choose the path that they want to choose? Because it's a tough one right now.
My cousin's 18, going through this journey right now. We have a friend in real estate who's 18 as well.
Okay.
So like we often discuss, like Adam and I, like looking back then, like they're at different levels, and you got to remember COVID's affected their generation probably more than any other generation. They missed out on 2 years of education, the social aspect as well. So I think it's tough, like as the older generation looking down them, no one can really say what it's like to be in their shoes, like from a mental aspect as well. I think the main thing, if I was to go back when I was 18, I was stuck in my ways, so to speak. Like, even though I was very good at education, I've never read a book outside of education or like for exam related purposes. I only read my first book when the first lockdown hit, and I'm pretty sure that was one of the ones you recommended as well. Since then, I've probably read a book once or twice a month, and that changed my life. Like, understanding myself or understanding like an aspect of whatever it is, you can pick up in a book and learn quicker than anything else. As someone that absorbs information quickly, that's the quickest way of learning for me. So I think exploring in that sense, finding out what interests you, pick up a book and read. And I think first things first is more to understand yourself, conquer your own mind, understand like what makes you tick, and you can get that through books. I'm sure you'd agree there, right?
Yeah, I'd agree there. And two things I'd add on top of that, apart from books, is one, if you are like 18, because a lot of young people, especially with COVID and stuff, it's hard to like, you can go out pretty much at all. But if I could go back in time or speak to anyone who's 18 in the UK, I would say make sure you still get your fitness in, because I think the way gym or going to the gym and the routine that instills, how it like transforms the rest of your sort of personality, your structure, your discipline, is something that can be beneficial throughout like your whole life. And so that is what I would recommend to everyone who's like 18 or below, or even just like young males, because it adds a lot of structure to your day, and the benefits once you start go far beyond just physique. Then with that, which is somewhat of a superset to it, is just stick with it. One thing Jake and I say always is you've got to be patient in the long term, but aggressively disciplined in the short term. And it's so hard to be like patient in the long term. You just want everything now. But if you can be patient with the vision for the long term and just be pushing it as much as you can in the short term, you'll get there for sure.
Just to add to that as well, when we was finishing up, when I was Adam's tutor, I said to him, "You're 18 now. If you don't go gym, you're going to get fat. This is the age where it catches up to you." A year, when I saw him like a year later at the Nando's, this guy had practically tripled his size. He was heavier than me at that point. So his point is very critical. Like, start that fitness routine now. It'll carry your mental health, your physical health for a long time. And it's harder to get into it as you get older, as I think everyone knows. But I also think, to add to that, as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, just take risks. Like, if you're in a blessed position where you can lose everything, start over again, like we have multiple times, like, just take the risk. We came to Dubai having never traveled here. We left incredible careers knowing we could go back to it, knowing we could fly back to the UK. And like, some people are put off by that. They're not willing to take that risk. But what have you got to lose? At 25 now, we could probably start again in another industry. Not that I don't think we have any plans to, but why not? Like, you're on this planet for such a short time, but also a very long time in that respect as well. You can start over, you can try different things and continually learn and grow in different ways. So just risk everything, try everything, like find out what ticks for you and what works for you.
Sound advice, guys. What is the book that you recommended, Jake?
So the book I recommended Jake, it was around Stoicism. My mum's a big fan of Stoicism, which is a type of sort of classic philosophy. There's a few main philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, excuse my pronunciation if I got that wrong. But this one was, I believe, called The Art of Living.
I read that. That was about a 90-page book. It was so easy to read because it was like probably like a small paragraph for each page. So it was great as like a first book to pick up. And it was probably the first book that gave me guidance on how to live life. Adam's quote when he gave me this book, he said, "This book has taught me more than any other book or any religion ever has."
Nice.
So to hear that, I was like, whoa.
That's deep, isn't it?
Yeah, let's see what this is about. And I think from there, it spiraled into other aspects of Stoicism. And then it gave a foundation for our understanding to like build off of that as well. So that book was the foundation of it all.
And just to add to that, which is maybe somewhat on the tangent, but I'm going to add it anyway. You know how in very current media, you see sort of like the figure Andrew Tate, he talks quite openly about this sort of complex of the Matrix. I remember at that time when I gave Jake that book, I was hearing, like, obviously you're hearing these sort of, let's just say, conspiracy theories, and you're drawing these dots together. I mean, like Andrew Tate says, the reason he believes in God is because he's seen real evil. And I remember hearing all these wild stories, seeing these things come true, and I'm like, what is the point of life to an extent? Like, what are we really doing here? Like, why are people playing? Like, why are people playing against each other in this way? I mean, I remember reading that book, and then I remember reading another book, which is something to do about the way of men. I think it's called The Way of Men. And it's like choosing a tribe, and I think those two books combined there really propelled my mentality and also injected purpose, which I think in a way, just projecting now, magnetizes our friendship group, including me and Jake, but also the people around us.
And I remember when you came in my living room during COVID once when we was on lockdown, so you shouldn't really have been around my house, but I think it's after I finished the book, I said to Adam, like, should you be living differently based on what you're doing now? And his honest answer was, if I was really serious about this level of stoicism, I'd be a farmer somewhere in the mountains, just, you know, breeding chickens, cattle, whatever, and just like living that life away from everything that this world is building now, which when you strip back to it, it's just survival and reproduction, right? And that's what that teaches you in this modern world.
So you've always been together for 8 years.
Well, there was a period when he was at Deloitte and I was at Ernst & Young. We were sort of just focusing on our own little things. We'd actually, ironically, like meet up and talk about property, but that was back in the UK, which is kind of ironic because none of that time did we ever realize or even fathom that we'd be in Dubai doing what we are doing now. But apart from that, we weren't obviously anywhere near as touch as we are obviously now.
Yeah, like when tuition stopped, like, and I got more intense at Deloitte, you started EY, and like exams come up, like it's very hard to like stick to anyone really. Like it's just, you were just doing whatever's in front of you at that point in time. So we'd always stay in touch, message each other here and there. Where it definitely picked back up is during the first lockdown in the UK. I was unfortunate, my family was unfortunate that I lost my granddad to COVID within the first 6 to 8 weeks of it happening. So
sorry.
Thank you. And I remember it was just a day or two after he passed away. Literally those past 6 weeks, I can't even remember sleeping. It was just one big like day really. My friend was living with me at the time as well, and like there was this knock on the door at 9 p.m. and my friend wakes me up. Hate being woken up, by the way, and he was like, "I'm sorry to wake you, but your friend's at the door." I was like, "Who is it? Like, why is someone coming at 9 p.m. at night?" And it was Adam with Afghanistan food, right? Yeah. And it takes back to our relationship as well, because when I was tutoring Adam, there was a day when we finished up a session, and we do 4-hour sessions at a time. Like we'd really just go at everything, like do tons of past papers. And his dad dropped me to the train station because it was like a 15-minute walk away as well. I get a text from Adam the next day saying, "Jake, unfortunately, I won't be able to do the session tomorrow. My dad's just passed away."
Oh, I'm so sorry, mate.
So our relationship has formed from like the losses we've had together. Like I was there for him when he lost his dad, and the thing he said to me when I walked in is like, "I know exactly what you need right now. I've been through this." And like I didn't know what I needed, but there's a guy there ready with the solutions, ready to say like how to help me go through this, because my whole world, my family's world, had been turned upside down in the space of 6 to 8 weeks as well. And I think from there, where you know, lockdown gave us the blessing to have a bit more time to, like, as we said, been reading and focusing on different things. There was two people here together that were ready to, like, take things to the next level. And there's this quote that always stands out to me about that period in time. They say a man has 2 lives and the second one begins when he only has 1. And that's how I define that period. And that's when we kind of reconnected. And from there, it was like, how can we get better at gym? Like, what do we need to do to lose body fat and build muscle mass at the same time? How do we train at home with limited resources? How do we finish our chartered accountancies? What do we want to do in our careers next? What do we want to do in terms of property as well? And it eventually, I think this was in late 2020 or 2021.
Must be 2020, right?
Yeah, we were there at 3 a.m. just like walking around, just like planning stuff as well. And Adam's like, you know, one day we need to go to Dubai. One day, like, we should do that. Like, if we ever take our fitness things to the next stage, or like even our careers there, it's tax-free, it's sunshine. And I was like, why don't we do it in 6 months? And he looked at me like, yeah, sure, yeah. But I was dead serious. Like in my head, I was like, nah, this guy's on something, I'm dead serious. And then he asked the question, what would you do when you go to Dubai? Or like, what would you do differently? And then we kind of established that we could start all over again. Like, if you could start again, what would you change in your life? Like, basically reset yourself. And that's, again, where their age is a blessing, that we could have that opportunity as well, we had the financial support behind us to do that as well, but we like started our careers young. And that's when it just spiraled from there, when it just like, right, we've always been interested in property. We've always wanted to own our own portfolios. Why not go into property? Why not learn sales as well? And that's when we was kind of like, okay, let's research into this and see if there is an opportunity out there, what can we do? And I remember I was scrolling on LinkedIn pretty much every day whilst doing my job at the time, just seeing that most companies were saying you need 2 years to buy real estate experience. You need at least 1 year. And I saw this company that said no prior real estate experience required. I applied for it, got an interview from there, and I told Adam, I was like, yeah, I'm interviewing now. And I think at the time, Adam was like, oh, we're not really serious about going, are we? Or like, oh, we're not actually doing this. And then we had like another like late night brainstorm, and I was like, yeah, we're doing this now. I got accepted. I was like, Adam, apply for this. You're going to get accepted as well. Like, let's do this. He got accepted, and from then it was like, wow, we've only got 3 months till we move out to Dubai. I think it was April time by then as well. So yeah, just everything just escalated from there. And since then, it's just been sprinting aggressively, everything coming at us even more. And I think that tied to what we were saying before, our purpose, what we wanted to achieve, that gave us like the elevation to take it to the next level. Again, going back to what we were discussing before, we had jobs where we were doing very, very well. We could have continued to do well into our 30s, 40s, whatever it needs to be, but it wasn't fulfilling enough for us. I think that was the common theme, that what do we want to achieve? What do we want passion from? What do we want to do on a day-to-day basis? And it always came back to property and like bettering ourselves, right?
I'm just hearing the timeline out loud. It's actually crazy to reflect on it. He is correct when he called me and said, yeah, I've got in. I was like, what the hell? I was like, I thought we were bantering, but it's ironic because at the time we had a third friend who was due to come with us. And I remember him telling me, and I called my third friend. I was like, you know what this guy's done? He's like, he's actually gone and applied. And I was like, should I do it? He was like, yeah, let's do it. So I've gone and applied as well. Got in. My third friend, he's here now in Dubai, but at the time he had a situation where he couldn't come. But yeah, like Jake said, long story short, we got here and it's been a roller coaster ever since, for sure.
You did mention you had financial backup. Was that from family, or was that you guys saving up for it?
Yeah, I mean, we started work from 18, 19, like decently paid jobs. So like we always had savings coming out here, and had that to fall back on as well. And I think even at the time before, like maybe a few months before we was planning to buy, we was talking about what investments to purchase together in the UK as well. Like, should we buy a house together, rent it out, or to try and flip it as well? So like, yeah, we were blessed in that sense that we had the financial backup to, one, get started out here, and one, you know, if it ever did go wrong, like we could always go back.
Like Jake said, I was fortunate enough that my mum didn't charge me for rent. So whilst I was living at home, I was able to maximise the salary I did get from obviously the big four companies, and yeah, it was good fun.
So, coming to Dubai, how did that go? I mean, from the start, you got a job, you applied, you got a job as well,
yeah,
and then you come in here. Do you know anyone?
It's a funny question, because the side part of that story is that when we were coming to Dubai, we were filming for this TV show, which actually started recording in London. So it sort of transgressed, obviously, London and Dubai. So it followed our journey from East London and coming to Dubai, and our first sort of steps in real estate. So it was so unique to that extent, because obviously we're coming into a whole new city. We've never been here on holiday. We've never done the industry before. We have no idea about sort of the culture, the language, the weather, for example. We've never experienced any of it. And we're just landing, and next thing you know, you've got a huge white screen in front of your face, big old camera, people putting mics on you and stuff. So it was a lot of adrenaline, a lot of new experiences. But yeah, I think we took it all in our stride.
I mean, I remember coming out the airport, I think it was like 7 a.m. in the morning. We're driving in the cab to our Marina Airbnb. We was looking at the building like, this is another planet. And it was just like, yeah, pure excitement and adrenaline from there. We get to the hotel, fell asleep straight away. And then like literally we got up, just went around, went for a jog straight away. And then we was literally like, we basically just copy and pasted what we were doing in London in terms of our routines of waking up at 5:30 a.m., going to the gym, starting our working day. And like, it was just attack mode from there, like ready to go. Like, and I think we were just always just excited, ready to learn, ready to go in. And that's that first 3-4 months of filming the show, learning our like area where we work in. And by the way, we were completely blessed that we got put in the same area in Dubai that we sell together now. Like, nice. So we had each other to bounce off as well. Yeah. So it got set up in a perfect way, and we had great support from the company as well. And again, half the time he's like, we don't know what we're doing, but we're going to go along with it and learn at the same time. So it was a fun experience. And then obviously watching the show back and like seeing where we were, we've come such a long way in a year and a quarter, really. It's crazy what we've achieved in that time. It's crazy how much we've grown in that time. It doesn't feel like a year. It feels like probably 3 months, if that. It's just flown by now.
So quick. Time in Dubai is like something I've never experienced before. It just flies by. But yeah, like Jake said, we are blessed because the area they gave us as well is probably one of the best in Dubai. So it's a wonderful opportunity for sure.
Because they could have put us on any area and been like, yeah, let's do this. We'll go for this. But yeah, like in hindsight and reflection, like actually learning it inside out now, like it's one of the best areas you can get. And I think particularly as well, going back to what we were discussing with the clientele we wanted to focus on, we couldn't have been given a better support starting position, really.
I've had clients who've messaged me saying, oh, XYZ, I'm a partner at Deloitte. And I'm like, wonderful. My best friend, Jake Mathews-Hubbard, he used to work at Deloitte Mergers and Acquisitions. Oh, I know XYZ, he's the partner in the London desk. And then you connect X right through there. I've had clients that I used to work in EY at the high net worth individuals, tax advice. I've had clients from that background, also know clients in Dubai, and we've helped them sort of restructure their holdings in Dubai just from my connections in London. So it's funny how these skills, when stacked together, they open different doors.
And I think we knew that quite quickly. Is how do you plan to make it to the top by just fitting in? Like I don't think anyone in our company has a background similar to us, right? And even the other companies, like no one really has that experience that we come from. And it's, maybe looking from the outside in, like you don't see the benefit it has, but we see these conversations we have when we go and meet clients together. It just like the conversation we have are just, it just propels us to that next level, and it builds a level of trust as well, because there's so many agents in the market, there's so many agencies, there's so many things to like potentially invest in and buy. It's like you need someone trusted there. And one of the things Adam first said when we started is chase trust, not money. And I think that's how we always approach a relationship, is what's the long-term relationship here? So prime example is this week I had a deal fall through with a very close client of mine, been working for 6 months, and we had everything agreed. It was a war to actually get the property he wanted, and unfortunately something came up where he couldn't proceed. And he was absolutely distraught that we weren't able to go through, not because of the property, because he knew we'd find something else, but because of the work I'd put in. And what I said to him is, don't worry about it. I'm going to be here in 10, 15 years' time, and we're going to be discussing all these assets that we've looked back on, invested in together. And that's where we want to be in this market. We're not just here to make quick cash and then go back home or go somewhere else, go on holiday, go partying. We're very much focused on to learn, to support, to build trust, build these networks, because we not only just want to be in sales and selling these properties, we want to actually be in the market ourselves. We want to be building our own portfolios. We want to be doing these huge renovation projects where you can buy something cheap, put a lot of value into it, and sell it for high margins as well. So we're practically on the ground learning it alongside our clients as well, like building these trusts, building these connections, understanding the process as well. So I think, again, that comes back to what we're saying about where would we be at 18? In some respects, we're like, oh, if we could do it again, what would you do? What would you change? Would we go into sales straight away? If we had this opportunity, which, by the way, there are some 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds doing very well in this industry that are doing it now. We look back and think, should we have done this sooner? But I think at the same time, it's patience that our journeys were set out for the way they are for a reason, to have these connections, to build what we know now, to establish ourselves. So it's a blessing as well. Like Adam said, patient with the result, impatient with the actions, really.
Yeah, so my specific at the Big Four was literally tax advice for high net worth individuals. The unglamorous way to describe it is tax returns. I like to go for the long-rooted answer. But in Dubai, I would like to describe what we do as matchmaking. The sort of properties we have are towards the luxury side, which does suit our conversation style and our, I think, skill set. And I think, how else can I describe what we do? I think we just try and provide solutions. For example, I was at a villa with Jake yesterday, and he was pretty much deconstructing the whole villa and explaining to his clients how he would make the villa suit their needs, because he understands his client. He's been with them for 6 months. He understands that their requirements requires the door to face a certain way. So he says, I know you can get permissions to push the wall out here and flip the door this way. So I think when you start working with these sort of clientele, they want you to provide a solution for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
At Deloitte, I worked in mergers and acquisitions, so like buying and selling companies or merging them together, so to say. It's kind of similar here in Dubai, where you can work on the sales side to assist an owner with selling their property, and you can work on the buyer side by helping a buyer find the property. And sometimes you're on both sides of the table, right? I always say, from a buyer's perspective, you tell me what you want and we'll find it. If we can't find it, we'll build it. If not, we'll buy the off-plan development that will come up in 4 years' time that ticks the boxes. So, like, it's definitely an exciting process, because at the end of the day, you're either helping someone find their new home, or, you know, helping them find them a new investment to build their portfolio, to help them create, you know, generational leverage. Or again, on the flip side, you're helping someone to sell their property for the best price possible. So, you know, it's a results-based business. You have to go out and get the best for both sides, and it's a challenge, but it's also exciting at the same time. It's probably the closest thing to a sport you can get, because whilst you are working for these clients, there's so much competition around you. It's like, if you don't give them these solutions, someone else will. Someone else will be ready to have the property. And we've been in countless situations where, you know, we've been working with a client for 3 to 6 months, you know, been trying to find the options. You nail down to what they want, but you might not be able to find it, or you might not have it between yourself and your colleagues. And, you know, they're ready to purchase. You know, they've got their pre-approval, their cash is ready to go, but you don't have it. And it's the challenge of being able to, like, find that and meet that. And sometimes you have to accept and say, you know what, I done absolutely everything I could to get this and do this right, and some things go wrong outside your hands, and you have to accept that and move on. And that's definitely the mental challenge of the job. It's a roller coaster. Like, sometimes you have losses that you just can't control. And, like, we have phone calls, or, like, we just have meetings, and, like, we just deconstruct a problem and say to each other, like, this is a situation. This is what I've done so far. What would you do differently? And it's just getting that perspective sometimes is like, cool, yeah, I need to go and do this. And how many times have we been doing that just over this week alone, let alone, like, the year and a half we've been here, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's daily. And it's daily.
Do you own a property here in UAE?
I don't. I own one in London.
Not in the UAE, no. I don't own one in London either, but no, not in the UAE as of yet.
Not yet.
As
Yeah,
of yet. Okay.
as of yet.
Okay. Say, for example, somebody wants, or it's in the thought process to buy the property. What would you advise them?
An understanding of what you want probably is the first step, and obviously the budget. And then find yourself a good agent, to be honest with you, one that, if you've got a friend or family member who's used before, probably a referral, I'd go with them, because obviously, you know, their service is going to be what you're looking for, and trust them to guide you through the process. I know Dubai, especially the real estate industry, has a certain reputation, but working in the industry and working with agents, not only in-house now, but other brokerships, I know there are a lot of good agents. So just find one that suits your criteria and help them guide you through the process.
I mean, you want to have fun as well, right? Like, I was out with a client yesterday. We went to 3 different areas, and at the end of it, she said, "Oh, that was so fun." And that's what you want the experience to be. At the end of the day, like, yeah, I think we had a training session this week, and I think one of the stats that come out with is that people spend more time food shopping than they do property shopping, and that's crazy, right? And I don't know if it was you that said it, or you passed it on from someone else, is that when you're working with these clients, is you want to treat them with the same respect and intensity as if you were finding a property for your mum or your dad or someone in your family. And I think when you have that level of dedication and care for a client, it goes a long way. They can see that. They can see you're practically going to war for them. Like I said today, either try and find the right property deal to get the best deal as well. And when you get to that level with clients where they listen to what you're saying, they trust what you're saying, you found the best solution for them, it's quite rewarding as well, because at the end of the day, you can see the vision and process for them, but when they believe it as well and they can see it as well, it's like we're on the same team. We know exactly what we're doing here, whether it's an investment property or your future home to raise your kids in. So that's the incredible process. I think sometimes you get caught up in what you're actually doing, but, you know, home is when you spend a lot of your time. Like, you create memories for last a lifetime and pass down to future generations, and that's what we're doing here. We're selling these homes.
You said home is something that you own for a lifetime and passed on to future generations. Just with that, I wanted to ask you, what is the rule for freehold properties? Do you have the property for more than 99 years?
Yeah. So leasehold is when it's 99 years, and then you have to renew the lease as well. So, yeah, we deal in freehold areas. So, yeah, we've got a couple of colleagues that specialize in the leasehold side, but I'm not sure how confirmed it is, but there are some rumors that the leasehold will convert to eventually a freehold. But yeah,
for the ones who want to save up on paying their rent, or maybe pay their rent and own the property eventually, what kind of advice would you give them?
I mean, right now it's an interesting time in the market. Both sides, the rental market and sales market, doing very well. But at the moment, the opportunity cost of renting is higher than if you had a mortgage with the current rates, even though they've gone up. So, listen, if you're in a position where you can buy right now and you can own your own asset, it's still way more valuable than paying off rent, paying on someone else's mortgage or income as well. And again, it comes back to our financial backgrounds. What makes the sense? I mean, some people, they have concerns of where the market's going to next in this global uncertainty with a potential recession on the way. And it's valid concern, right? As we're planning to make our own investments here and buy properties here as well. So it's something you definitely have to reflect on. But the buyer's in such a unique position where they've pivoted themselves very well since COVID. They had very strict lockdowns. It didn't spread as crazy as it did. And from there, I think they've taken advantage of the fact that the rest of the world hasn't been as good as them in that respect. You know, they've relaxed the visas. They made it much more easy to come into the country. They're much more easy to invest in businesses. A lot of our clients that are moving across here are bringing their business with them as well. And their plans to double the population over the next 5 to 10 years, that's only going to take the market from strength to strength. So if you're in a position where you're renting and you can purchase an asset, fantastic. I think this is still a great time to do so. If, of course, you're still saving in that process, yeah, you have to be quite disciplined with what you're doing. You have to have a budget in that respect as well. At the same time with me, when I was in London, I was 19, 20, I was paying, I think, 2,000 GBP, so about 8,000 dirhams a month just in rent alone, not bills, not expenses, not going out. And at the same time, I was trying to save for a property. And the only way to do that is sacrifices. You have to be meticulous in what you're purchasing, your meal plan, you know, not going out so much as well. And that's the sacrifice you make, right? Because eventually you can then own an asset where, like I said, you're not paying off someone else's mortgages. You're not paying someone an income just to live somewhere. And especially in this rental market here where the rents are quite high, you want to be able to try and do that as soon as possible if you have plans to be here in the long run, of course.
Yeah, like just to summarize what Jake said, rent or buy, you're paying a mortgage. You'd rather pay your own, right?
For a good property, what would be the budget, in your opinion? Of course, I know it's a perspective, but what would you say would be for a flat? And then we go for a villa.
My knowledge on flats is probably less depth than villas, but I think around maybe 2 to 2.5. I think is a strong budget for an apartment. You'll get obviously a premium location, and obviously I think you'd get a good view. So I think around 2 to 2.5 million.
Amenities?
Yeah, the amenities come. I think most sort of premium towers or premium buildings obviously have the gym, the swimming pool. Some have, I don't know, squash courts and etc. etc. But yeah, I think it's subject to each different tower.
Yeah, we're definitely biased working in the luxury side of things. Like we live in Arjan and JVC, so like we see these developments going up quite quickly where they're from developers that aren't as well known. So we've been able to get an understanding in that respect. But you know, sometimes we have these conversations with family, and like I remember my mum and dad came here just a couple of weeks ago, and I was just showing them around the different places, and they were like, "You've normalized what it is, like even a gated community in London, like from where we're from." That was on the other side of London in the west, right? I'd never even seen one. I didn't even know they were in London, coming here and then selling inside them. It's quickly become normalized in terms of you have, you know, a pool on your doorstep, you have like palm trees outside lit up every day, and like a skyline view, a golf course view, a lake view, like completely modern luxury. It's just where we see it day in, day out. It's just the norm for us now. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, yeah, probably 2.5 million is a good budget, but you can go further out and find value elsewhere as well. Mm-hmm. That's the thing with Dubai. Quickly when we came here, we learned that, you know, you want to be 10, 15 minutes away from everything, but you know, a commute in London, a good one is 45 minutes. So it's, if you are willing to go further out, and I think the trend this year has been that buyers are starting to go further out because there is more value out there in terms of plot sizes, built up area as well. If you're willing to do that, great. You can find some better stuff out there as well.
Which location are you guys currently working on?
We work in Emirates Living. So that includes Springs, the lakes, the meadows, and obviously Emirates Hills. That's sort of the overarching theme of the community.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice villas there. Have you ever been?
I have, yes. Do they build their own villas in Emirates Hills?
Yes, they're all EMA, except the ones in Emirates Hills. I think majority of those are probably custom built.
That's what I wanted to know, because I did go to Emirates Hills, and every villa is grand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, when it's a development, because it's very similar, but Emirates Hills is like, wow.
Yeah, Emirates Hills definitely has that aura and reputation. It's probably one of the only, I think there's only 3 communities in Dubai that have that sort of international pool, being Emirates Hills, the Palm, and Jumeirah Bay. But I wouldn't be surprised if a few more start popping up as Dubai gets more and more popular.
So, gents, tell us a little bit about your routine.
Oh, Mr. is still sleeping till 8:30 or whatever it is at the moment. Our routine is the backbone of our success.
Okay.
And that can't be underestimated, because anytime we veer away from the routine that we set and we've learned, it's evident in every aspect of our lives that we're not as good without it. So it's the discipline of waking up at 5:30 in the morning, waking up, doing your daily readings, like our Stoicism. We still read like one of the third or fourth books. It's called the Daily Stoic. Every day it has like a different theme, a different message. We start off our day reading that. We do meditation, we do breathing practices, we stretch, then we go in the gym, we do our cardio in the morning. We make sure we've got our meals prepped for the day, and then we set out and we go to work for like 8:30, 9 a.m. From there, going forward, like your work day can be structured in a certain place. Like you might have this client to speak to, do this amount of calls, go out for viewings, but very quickly that can all turn upside down. So you have to be very agile and flexible to ready to like completely change your whole day, how you had it planned. Like this week, for example, I haven't been in the office most of the time. I've been out doing viewings, and like I haven't made some of the calls I needed to make as well. And then after that, we typically go gym again in the evening. So we'll do our weight training, we'll do some cardio after. It depends like what cycle of like where we're at. If we're bulking, shredding, we've been doing the former rather than the latter recently. So we need to pick up on our not eating so much, right?
Most definitely a lot more cardio. But yeah, just to add on to that point, definitely it's ironically become somewhat of a crutch, the way we rely on routine, but it is fundamental to the process and everything we really try and achieve out here.
I get depressed. I genuinely get depressed if I'm not going gym. Like maybe depressed is excessive, but I genuinely get down, and like I'm like, you saw me like 2 weeks ago when like I was out of my routine. I'd been on holidays. My mum and dad had been here. Like I'd fallen out of the routine of waking up early. And you know when it's like challenging to get up, and like you just get back in bed, you switch off the alarm, and like it just becomes a habit. Like once you're out of it, it's hard to get back in. It's You have to stay there, and that's how you build momentum, really.
So in real estate, there's a lot of money. How much money do you make?
Deal to deal, it can depend. Thinking about some deals people have done, some crazy numbers on the board, especially this year, just in our company. Personally speaking, the biggest deal was I did a lot of big deals in leasing before I came over. Let's just say from a leasing perspective, and you can talk probably about sales perspective.
Yeah.
Just to give two contrasts. Leasing wise, they range from 5,000 dirhams, I'd say minimum. I'd say 5,000 dirhams to all the way to like, I think the biggest deal I've ever heard of is maybe like 6 million dirhams leasing deal, and half of that goes to the company. So the agent took the other half.
The commission was 6 million.
I might be chatting nonsense.
You mean the gross value of the rental contract?
Yeah, the gross value of rental contracts. Whatever, 6 million. So the commission would be 300,000 dirhams. So leasing would be 5,000 to 300,000 dirhams in commission. So people in leasing could be walking home with like 150,000 dirhams. The most I ever put on the board was I think 70,000 in one deal in leasing, and then for sales side it can get pretty crazy.
Yeah, it varies. Of course, like the more deals you do, the more money you make, and that's the beauty of it. You're uncapped in that sense. Like you can do as much as you want. Like you could literally be working 24/7. You'll do more deals just because you put more effort into it, right? And the earning potential is just uncapped. And that's, again, coming back to our previous jobs where it's quite rigid, quite structured. You had to wait for certain promotions. You had to wait till you finish certain exams. You had to wait until you were a certain level to get certain bonuses as well. It's very rigid. Like we didn't like that respect, because having sports backgrounds growing up, like we wanted that competition. We wanted that competitive edge. We want to like outcompete one another, like in a friendly sense, and like the people we're around to try and be the best possible. And if we're not doing that, something's wrong, especially if the limitations that the company you're working in enable that, which our corporate jobs did, right? So from a sales side, it's like it's higher margins. You can earn up to 4% on a deal, depending on the transaction volume. So let's say you got, 10 million sale, you've got the buyer and the seller, you're working from both sides, you can get 4% of that. So what's that, 400k?
Yeah, for how much?
For a 10 million deal, 400k on the board, you split that with your company, depending on like what your fee structure is as well. So, I mean, this gentleman right here, he has the second highest sale transaction in Lake's history for a property. So the money he made off that was probably more than what he was earning in the UK in a whole year.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's some of the deals we've done. Just to give you an insight, I said it the other day. It's a 6-figure apprenticeship, it's a 6-figure learning curve, and let's be humble for a second. Like we're very blessed. We're doing very well. Like it's for everyone. It's not always like that. Sometimes it takes a bit longer. Like for us, for Adam, for example, when he came across the sale, it took 3 months to do his first sale. When I moved to sales, it took me 3 months as well. Prime contrast of that is we've had one of our friends come over who's, he's had a bit of our guidance. He's come in hungry. He's come in ready. He's done 3 deals in 2 months.
Yeah.
He just made, I think, take home in his pocket 25,000 dirhams from 1 deal, if I'm correct.
I don't know his numbers.
It's something like that. And that's his 3rd deal in the company. In the UK, for example, that's about 6,000 GBP, and he's getting that tax-free.
Yeah.
And to do that in our jobs we're doing, that's probably a 2-month salary.
And in how much time did he get that coming to Dubai?
He's done that in 2 months.
In 2 months, and he's just 2 months in Dubai, and he's done that.
2 months. Yeah.
2 months is exaggerated. It's probably around 6 weeks. Like it's summer holidays.
Yeah.
Not joking.
Yeah.
I'm not even being hyperbolic. And that was a delayed deal. He could have easily done like 3 of them in 1 month.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, right? There's so many hurdles in real estate. There's like so many steps along the way, and like you can be doing everything right, and then one step goes wrong and the deal falls through. Like I've had countless deals now that have agreed, been like signed by one side, and then it goes to sign to another, and for whatever reason something pops up, someone outbids another, and like I've been on the other side of the table when a deal's agreed and I've come in and taken the deal. It's a sport in that sense. It's like Adam said, you're practically at war with other people, like hunting and like trying to make sure you're doing everything you can to get it done. But yeah, the earning potentials, it's crazy here. And I think we've done very well to elevate from our previous jobs, and we're very thankful for where we are now, but we know there's a whole nother level we can take it to. We know there's a whole nother part of the market that we can go to next. And we're in the secondary sales market. So we sell properties that are already built and made, they're already transacting and whatnot. But then there's also off-plan, which are future developments that come across, and the margins there are even crazier as well. And it takes a bit of time to develop your network to be able to sell an off-plan. You can primarily focus on that, but I think our plan as well is to eventually be doing like bits of both, right? Like working in the secondary market at the highest level and also be doing off-plan as well. Like, so we give our clients the full package as well. So, it's something we're definitely trying to like build on, like our off-plan knowledge as well.
So something I'd really like to understand is, you said you both have sports background, and you had a very friendly kind of competition with each other with various things. At the same time, you support each other. How does that work?
You know what? That's actually a good question. And I think this is something that people don't understand. See, Jake and I, we're in collaboration, not competition. And for us, we came to Dubai originally for knowledge, not for money. And our plans go beyond real estate, and not to get like deep about it, but our plans go beyond just like work, like friendship, and obviously all the other things that come with it. Like if you got a friend for life, or if you think you got a friend for like a soul tie, then how long is a lifetime really? It's a small amount of time, right? So for Jake, like it's almost ironic, because I actually do get this question quite a lot. Oh, like £1 billion. It'd be like, what would I spend my £1 billion with if I didn't have Jake? I'll just be there, a rich, lonely man. What was the point? So for those questions, I find it ironic, and sometimes to an extent, when people don't understand it, I almost feel sorry for them, because then we have something that money can't buy.
I think as well, like with our relationship, how it formed, I was teaching Adam to be better than me. If I was teaching him to just be me or just be below me, I wasn't doing my job properly. So like, for example, when he got full marks in economics, full A star, like he done better than me. And that was my job at the time. And that's how our relationship is now, is that the advice I'm giving you is to be better than me. The advice you're giving me is to be better than me, but not to go somewhere else. It's just so we can share and like elevate together. And like, whether it's real estate or gym or whatever it may be, it's so each other we are elevating to better levels. So I think as well, like one of the things I said to Adam when we first came out to Dubai, I said to him, if it's just me and you at the finish line, we have failed. If we don't bring more people out here and let them know what's going on here and let them know the potential they have here, we failed as 2 individuals. Based on our friendship groups back home, based on our family back home, like we know. And Jordan, who's came here in the last 2 months, is a prime example of this. One of our friends that's just moved out here. He's done 3 deals in 2 months. We didn't do that. we didn't do free sales deals. We started off in leasing, which is slightly lower margins. We took our time to build up our knowledge. He's come in and hit the ground running just through want and discipline as well. And it's a prime example of that. It's in the UK as well. There's a lot of people that at our age are still struggling with jobs, still struggling to get graduate jobs, or still struggling to, have the qualifications that we had from doing it without going to university as well. And it's kind of like the economic conditions there and the politics there is, why are you staying there? What are you trying to achieve? Because our goals have always been quite clear. We're trying to achieve financial freedom here. We're trying to create a generational shift that hasn't been seen in our families before. So, we can put our families on private healthcare. If they want to go on holiday whenever they want, they've got that. There's properties here that they can move into. So that's the discussions I was having with my mum and dad when they came. It's like, right, they're looking to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. Like, you never know what tomorrow brings. How do we create that happy retirement? Because they've given me everything I have today. If I ever needed a book, they'd be there to give it to me. Every football match I was at, my dad was there. Every parents' evening, they were there. Like, if it was ever something that I needed, they said, what can we do to help? And that's such a blessing. I'm so grateful for that, because without them, I wouldn't be standing or sitting here rather. So that's what we're trying to achieve, is like, right, how do we pay them back, but also bring people here so they can provide that for their families as well. It's not enough for just us to achieve, because we had that in London. We had jobs that would have taken us to a very high position. We had great cars in London. I owned my own property. And I always used to say, like, as I was leaving to my friends, and they were saying, why are you going? My family asked, why are you going? I said, if it was just for these 4 walls that I live in, I'd be here for the next 20, 30 years. But I have a bigger purpose in this. I know I can achieve more than this and take it to a level that, I can see. My mum, I remember I was driving my mum to work during lockdown. She worked as a receptionist for the NHS, so hospitals in London. They had to go to work. And we were discussing like these ideas and stuff. She's like, when are you going to stop and like slow down? I was like, at that point, I just realized my mum will only see it when it's been achieved. When I've set out and accomplished the vision that I have and we have together, that's when they'll be like, that's what you're working towards. That's what you were doing all this for. And I know they're already proud of me and grateful for everything I'm doing, but I just know we can take it to that next level and give everything that they've given us and more.
Yeah. And there's a word, I can't remember, you might remember it. What's that word? It's a German word. Robert Greene uses it in 48 Laws of Power, in Laws of Human Nature. And it's to do with the feeling of a generation. It's some mad German word. I don't know, I'll send it to you. You might want to put it in the description at some point. But the general, I think, feel for like just around in this sort of like last couple of years, especially after COVID and with like technology sort of making social interactions a little bit more mobile, what Jake, Jordan and I have, and then our sort of immediate inner circle of friends, is that we're all batting for each other. In the same way, like Jake and I came up first, you're seeing people jump in the trenches and like going at it, and you're looking around like, what else can I do? And you've seen like people back in the UK, like my friend's just started his own company, my other friend's doing crazy things in banking, so it's like a sort of like a Beyblade. It's catching its own momentum within our own group. Like everybody's trying to chip in because everybody's going crazy. So it's like that's the general feel of our like group. Like the general feel is just like spin it almost like at the casino. Like why not risk it?
And I think the crazy thing is it's like so for context, Adam came into sales in May.
Yeah,
he was in leasing. I was in sales from October last year. And the sales I had done up to the point when you made your first sale, he'd done over half of what I had in one deal, because he sold a very big property in a very nice community. And that made me reflect on myself and say, right, what can I do better now? Like, how do I get into this? Because he's come along and, like, in my opinion, done something better than I have achieved already. So clearly I could be doing something better. And it's the same with Jordan as well. Like when Jordan done his deal at that intensity, it's like, what is he doing that we weren't doing at the start? And some of the things that he's learned himself, like he's every month, at the end of every month, he sends a report out to every single one of his clients, and he builds conversation from that. Yeah. And he has them tagged based on WhatsApp that he can broadcast that, and almost by automation. And like, I was looking at it yesterday, I was like, why am I not doing this? How do I get this started? Yeah. But then we had a conversation from there, is that, okay, can we build our own data analytics to present to people, to go and sit down and have a conversation and be like, this is where the market is, this is how your property compares. And there's some tools out there that enable this, but is that what gives you that competitive edge as well? But I think coming back to it, it's just like, we just want to see each other win. When Jordan done his third deal, I'm genuinely more happy for him than I have been on any of my deals. Yeah. Because it's not enough for us just to win. Like it's got to be shared, it's got to be collected. And sometimes as well in this sport, in this industry, it's not enough for us just to win, but someone else has to lose. And sometimes it's on some deals you're going up against the competition who are doing everything in their power to mess up your deal, rightfully or wrongfully. But that's a whole other conversation. But that's what we know we're up against as well. So sometimes it is generally, you see Adam or Jordan like get a win, sign a contract, get the deal done. We've seen everything behind the scenes that goes through that, like the late night calls, the mistrust from other agents and whatnot. And it's just like, it's like winning the trophy. It's like scoring a goal in a Champions League final. It's like, you have that on a daily basis sometimes. And it's just like, it's a sport, it's fun, it's competitive. Like we generally like wake up and like sometimes you never know what's going to happen, or you never know what deal's going to close, or you never know what trials and tribulations you're going to face. And it's just like, that's the closest thing to a sport you will get, because you don't know what your opponent's going to come in the ring with.
Yeah, literally that. The unpredictability of it all is just makes it so beautiful. Like without the losses, the wins wouldn't be so good. Like you want as many as you can get, literally. So then when you get the wins, it's so sweet. So it's I couldn't imagine going back to the corporate world after experiencing this. No way.
I'd be depressed.
Even regardless, even if it was for the money, like even if the money was exactly the same, I'd still do this job, because it's just such a.
And don't get me wrong, it's taken us a lot of time to get to where we are now, when we can like. The best quote that we've had to learn from Stoicism is receive without arrogance, let go without attachment. And it's when you win, yeah, celebrate it, be happy, but don't hold on to it for too long, because tomorrow's a new day. You never know what's gonna happen. Let go without attachment. If you lose, it was never yours. If you lose and you've done everything right along the way, and you can honestly say, there's nothing I would have changed, move on. And it can be so difficult in terms of the stakes that we're talking, that when a deal falls through and you lose that, when it's nearly over the line, it just goes. It's very frustrating. It's very upsetting. Like you have to have that period where, you know, it feels like you've lost. You have to, but you've got to bounce back quickly. You dwell on that too long, you're out of the game. And it's other deals get affected as well. And that's where our mentalities are probably such a crucial factor. And it comes back to our routines and what we're reading that sets us up for the day. Is that if we're not in that mindset, you can quickly lose again. 100%. It affects your aura and energy, how you're reacting with your clients, the interaction you're having with your colleagues as well. And we see it in each other. We know when like we're frustrated or we're angry or something, or like, you know, we've been pushing ourselves in the limit with work and gym, and like we need to reset. So it's also acknowledging that you're human as well. You have your own limitations, and like to be sustainable in this, you have to not burn out. Yeah. And I think, given the successes we've had from young ages, like going into our careers very young, I myself have often battled with burning out. Like I said, like doing 10-hour days and then going home and studying, doing chartered accountancy. I acknowledge when I have that period where I'm about to burn out and I can't work anymore. And I'd say we probably have that here more than ever. Adam's mum said it best, that the adrenaline when we first moved here was going to wear off. And at first we was like, we've got so much energy. The sun's always out. Like vitamin C and D is amazing and whatnot. But like now it's like, right, we can't do everything. As we said, like we're getting a bit older now. Like our bodies aren't 18-year-olds that we once were. So that's the challenge as well. Just like holding it all together.
So guys, tell me some interesting real estate stories.
Jake, do you have anything that comes to mind immediately?
Let's start with the funny then. Start with the funny and then we'll build it to the interesting.
I guess loosely defined funny is, well, it wasn't funny for me. My first set of viewings, pretty much, I've come into real estate. I don't know what I'm doing. I've got my first client. I'm buzzing. I send them all the villas and they say, yeah, we only want to view villas which add up to the number 9. I was like, okay, I'll be open-minded. Maybe it's a cultural thing. So I booked a viewing at Villa 36, Villa 27, and one at Villa 9. So I thought, I've done my job. Let's go. Obviously in Dubai it's left-hand drive, and in the UK it's right-hand drive, so I'm still getting used to my bearings. And back in the UK I had a nice BMW, so I know like how to drive that. But if you remember me driving, I was quite known for like skimming cars. Like when I'm driving, I get quite close on the passenger side to like other cars, so I'll be flying past them, but like skimming them. I don't know why. Maybe it's a GTA thing, but anyway.
At the speed limit, we must say.
Of course. So I'll be skimming these cars. Anyway, I'm in Dubai now, and there's a huge truck that's pulled over, and I've got these clients following me. I've got one route to the villa now, and the owner's calling me. I don't know where I'm going. I'm getting lost in Google Maps.
On a weekend, by the way, you're doing extra shift.
Extra shift. And I'm not sure where I'm going, so I'm getting all like hands tumbled up. And as I'm driving, I'm not seeing this sort of truck start to come out. I've looked up, and just as I looked up, I seen him coming out, and I've just tried to swerve out of the way. Next thing I know, I hear, bang! My right wind mirror comes flying off. I see it in my rear view mirror. I hear, my whole right-hand side of my car gets scratched. And I'm like, oh, shit. I've looked over to my right, and all I see is like the wires of my mirror sticking out, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, let's just carry on driving. At that point there, I'm only taking left turns. Like, we're doing like circles now to get to where we want to go, because I'm like, I refuse for them to let them see my right-hand side. So I've hit all the left turns. I pull up at the villa, jump out the car. Funny enough, this was August, like our first month in real estate. So I had 4 bottles of water, law of reciprocation, didn't work. Gave them all the waters and said, oh, it's a hot day, I got you guys some waters. Husband didn't get out of the car, he was laughing too much. Daughter didn't get out of the car, she was laughing too much. Wife came in, gave me like 10 seconds of her time and then left. And then thankfully they did, because after that, all the police came and said, like, why are you driving off? Like, you've just crashed into this car. This truck driver's got scratch marks all down his truck. It was borderline traumatic. Yeah, it was crazy. And then next thing I know, I'm at the police station doing Dubai police app. And that was legitimately one of my first 2 viewings in Dubai. I'm not, no word of a lie. No word of a lie.
Safe to say you didn't close that one.
Didn't see them again. Never saw them again. I never saw that wind mirror, ironically. I don't know. I think the truck driver kept it as a souvenir. But yeah, that was a unique experience. Humbling.
I had a similar. It's so like, this is where we say like yin yang. Like sometimes we just go through things at the same time as well. Like a week later, 2 weeks later, after we laughed about his one, I'm there on a viewing. I've just got an offer on one of my properties. I'm there in the Nissan Sunny rental. I'm reversing. I'm on the phone negotiating, so I'm half paying attention to what I'm doing, and I just get a massive thud at the back of my car, and like I'm looking around like, what was that? Like, have I hit someone? Like, I've seen like people across the road looking at me. I've got out my car and realized I've reversed into a tree. Wow. That I'm still to this day, I'm convinced that it was not there when I was first there. That's why I reversed so quickly. I look at my car, I'm like, no dents, nothing whatsoever. Like, how have I got out of this? I'm so happy. Go on my way to my next viewing now. I'm just driving away. Go home, like, happy days. I look at it, come out, like, the back of, what's it called? What's the back of a car called at the bottom?
Bumper?
The back bump, whatever it's called. That was hanging off. I pushed that back in. The light had cracked as well. It was just only slightly. I was like, I'm going to get away with this. I'll get rid of this rental soon anyway. I'm on my way to a viewing as well, and I'm just getting loads of beeps on, like, Shakeside Road. I'm going, like, 120, and I'm like, why is everyone beeping me? I'm driving at a good pace, whatnot. And I look, and I just see the bumpers just flying in the background, like, about to fall off. I was like, please let me get to this viewing and just let me do it and just don't fall off, because if it hits someone, I'm screwed. Like, I'm there thinking I'm going to get arrested or something like that. I get to the viewing, the guy's like, is your car all right? I'm like, does it look all right? Yeah. Similar thing as well. Like, I never saw that guy again after, but yeah, that's the painful experience. But you had to go through that, right? It was meant to be.
100%. And just thinking about it, that Nissan Sunny as a brand now holds sentimental value. Like, as soon as if I'm ever perceived as up, I'm buying one just to have in, like, the background, because it's like a donkey, you know what I mean? It's just like a workhorse car. Like, it offered so much to, like, it did so much.
So both of you banged the Nissan Sunny.
Yeah.
Yours was Nissan Sunny and yours was also a Nissan Sunny.
We had, mine was white, yours was, no, mine was silver, yours was white.
Yeah.
When we took a picture when we first got it, was like
sick.
delayed gratification. And
yeah,
like,
sick.
Humbly now look at us, I'm driving an AMG Mercedes, Adam's in a Range Rover. So like, it's nice to see how far we've come in that material sense, that like we had to go through that period. And again, that, like, taking it back a step, I think coming to Dubai was so humbling for us, because like we had nice cars, we had good positions, and we stripped that back, driving Nissan Sunnies, sharing a 3-bedroom in Marina, one with someone else who we didn't know, completely different conditions compared to what we're living at home, where it's nice and modern, like, your people coming in and out, it's loud, it's noisy, like the stove's shaking and stuff like that. Like, not knowing if this is a good price or whatnot, like eating chicken together and like on a Friday, just like cooked fresh from there. Like, we had to strip it all back and start again. And again, walking into the house, walking into our careers and not knowing anything, it was humbling, like, experience.
Yeah. No, sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. I would have loved if we vlogged that whole experience, man. That would have been so crazy. Because all we got now is memories, and like, some things, like, it's hard to explain, but you just had to be there, and just like thinking back to it, it was just like, what an experience. It was literally a blur.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, we'd come out with money. Like we'd had money back at home. Like we'd always know we'd be in okay. That our rule was always, if one of us needs money, like we both need to sort something out, like bounce off each other.
I'm looking at my crypto wallet at one point, like this has got to go.
And like that's the thing. It was always just a cash flow thing. Like we were fortunate in that respect that it was never like we didn't have money. It was just cash flow and moving funds across. But like it still had that pressure and stress, maybe that like we need to go and make money because like this isn't going to last forever kind of thing. You have that in the back of your mind, and that's definitely one thing in real estate. And one thing I said to Jordan when you come out here, like don't worry that you're on commission only. Don't worry that when a deal lands and when you get paid and whatnot, just focus on doing the job, you'll get paid. Because I think, speaking for myself, I don't know if you had this, Adam, but definitely in the early days when I was doing deals, I could feel like I want to get this closed just so I know I have that security, or like I want to make sure that there's something coming in later down the line so I don't have to move funds across from the UK. And I think once you get over that mindset that you are on commission only, and it's like it's not as daunting as it's made out to be, because I didn't even tell my family I was going on commission only. I said, this nice little salary, I'll be okay. But to some people that's insane. Like they're not willing to take that risk and like have that responsibility. And it's tough as well because you go on holiday, you take a break, you switch off, like you lose out on deals. Like there's never a good time to walk away from real estate on commission only job, right?
Yeah, it's really weird how it works. It must be like one of those sort of vibrational things, sort of frequency things that underwrite the rules of the world. But it's sort of like a less is more sort of principle, where as soon as you like let go of this whole concept of like you need to make money, I need to close a deal, they just start becoming more attracted to you. It's quite amazing to that extent. Because I remember like around sort of Christmas periods, like I just sort of let it go and see what happens, and it literally just went mad. It just took off from there. So yeah, it's a bit crazy.
And I think as well, like the money we're earning here has now become like, what is money now? Like it's, you see the amount you get paid, like you get text end of every month. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
What do we like? We in that sense, again, like our previous careers are highly beneficial because we've been taught to a very high level how to forecast, how to budget, how to like plan, how to invest as well. So like our strategy in the long run here is to have our own portfolio. It is to be able to flip properties as well. And it's coming from this background of building models to dictate, that tells you yes or no when to make a move, basically, like taking the emotions out of things as well. So I think financially we're very responsible as well in that respect, that, you know, we want to be owning our own properties here. We want to be flipping together. Like eventually we want to be in a position where people are selling to us. We have our own agents. We're not just agents ourselves. And we might dabble here and there for some clients, but eventually we want to be like who we're working for now, like buying homes for one another, like looking in these communities, what's popping up next, what's the best off-plan development, how can I leverage my existing assets and whatnot. So that's the long-term strategy, right?
Yeah, and just to add on to Jake's point, like when you said when you get that text, I think the way I interpret what he means is like with a salary role, it's like, okay, all right, let's just say £2,500, whatever the amount is into the account. Let's just say it's 20,000 dirhams. I don't know how much it is conversion rate. When it gets so repetitive, it's just like a salary. Like obviously it is a salary, but when you get like a commission, it changes every time. Say example, you don't bill that month, you don't get anything transferred that month. Say it doesn't transfer, you don't get paid that month. And when you have it like so like sporadic, it changes from being a salary to a resource. And then when you have that sort of mindset shift, I think it becomes, you're able to utilize the money a lot different. Because I was thinking that as well. I was thinking my perception of money has completely changed since coming to Dubai. And I couldn't really pinpoint exactly what it was, but I think the fact where you realize it's not consistent in the same way a salary is, it changes from being like literally a salary to now a resource, and then you can start utilizing as what it is, which is obviously a resource.
Like you said it best, money is not the goal, it's the tool. Literally. And comfort is a very, very dangerous drug. And I think reflecting back on a lot of what we said in this conversation, our previous careers allowed comfort. And great, it works for some people, and like it's fantastic. You can reach incredible heights. And again, some people are happy to go about their 9 to 5, come home, like chill, relax. That's just not us. Like we want to be in this competitive level where there's like uncapped potential. Like again, where how do we use money as the tool, the resource to build next? Again, because ultimately what everyone would like to achieve is to be able to be in control of their lives, to have freedom to like do what you want and make these choices and help others to do that as well and to give back. It's like, how do we get there? Oh, it's using money in smart ways. It's using it as the tool as well. And like, how do we get there quicker? You can, sprint towards it, do more deals and whatnot. Again, as Adam said, you've got to be patient with the long-term vision of what we're doing here. it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take, 5-10 years to master this journey. It's going to take 5 to 10 years to master our knowledge and expertise as well. And we often say that, where do we want to take it to in our level of expertise? It's like, great, we've got the financial side locked down for our previous careers, but at the same time, there's still things where we can learn, where it's walking into a property and be able to say, this is this type of marble, that's that type of marble, like this is this kind of works. Like just from the get-go, you should have that knowledge and expertise. Because if we really want to take it to the upper echelons of Dubai real estate, that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take. And, we're on our way there. We're still learning. We're still growing in that respect as well.
And you still are young. So, yeah, you have time on your side.
I think so.
Discipline for sure. I can see that. Guys, so interesting story about real estate. So to give you more of what I mean is the deals that you never thought you'd close and you ended up closing.
I mean, I think, Adam, your one's a good one. Like the Hattan you had exclusively for sale. Like, Adam, I'll let you speak about it. Like just how it came out of nowhere when you finally closed it, right?
That is a unique one. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, the thing is about the Hatton community is super exclusive. I think the Hatton one, it is a unique sale, but what made it more feasible in my head is that it was priced well. So I think anything in this high market, if it's priced well, it will sell because there are good buyers in the market. And at the end of the day, in Dubai, the secondary market which we work in, which is ready-made villas, demand for luxury villas far outstrips supply. So that villa, yeah, it was a unique way because I was blocked by the owner. He had blocked my number, so I couldn't speak to him. The only reason I found out about it is because of the referral, and then the PA called me, even though he had already blocked me, and said, can you help with my villa? So it was completely backward situation. Usually we have to go and get our own work. This time they came to me, and then randomly on the blue one day, the buyer's agent called me and said, we'd literally like to buy it. And then it happened literally out of the blue. I pretty much called every single contact in our system's database, go back since its inception, for anyone with a budget over 10 million looking in our area. I called every single person, couldn't find one. Had a couple buyers who inquired, but they were about 3 million dirhams short. And then one guy literally out of nowhere came and called me one morning and said, we're going to go view it this afternoon if you're okay with it. I think I've got a buyer from Singapore who's interested, and the rest is history. But I think, sorry, excuse me, the change of weather's catching up with me. But I think the
sun all year round.
Got to work on the tan, right? Anyway, I think the most interesting one for me, just reflecting on it now, is I remember I had a leasing deal where I rented this villa for like a crazy amount of money. But the way that whole situation came about was so unique because just for context, I met this girl somewhat off TikTok.
This is incredible work, right?
This is actually a crazy story. Now that I think about it.
This is not your average prospecting right here.
This is actually a crazy story. Anyway, long story short. So I met this girl off TikTok, XYZ. Me and her chatting, we're somewhat friends. She's like, going to a car meet. I'm going to this car meet thing. Would you like to come? And I was interested in the car she wanted to see. I was like, yeah, sure, definitely want to come. Bear in mind, it's like my first 2 weeks in Dubai. So like first couple of months in Dubai. So I was like, for sure, I'll come through. So we go to the car meet, I bump into a few people, making friends, socializing, XYZ. Later down the line, I'm prospecting in Emirates Hills, so obviously the big communities, and find out someone else's villa is available. And as I'm conversing with them, I'm talking about how I want to market it, how I want to strategize it. I'm like, I've got a friend, she's close with the owners or the admins of a supercar group. I'm sure we could get the cars in because you've got a beautiful villa, and we can really turn this marketing up. And he was like, oh, what's the car group? Because I'm in a car group myself. And I was like, oh, it's XYZ. And he's like, I'm like one of the co-admins of this car group. So that's when the pieces started to fall together, and we realized we had a lot in common. We ended up meeting in person. Jake met him, super cool guy, young guy, he lived in Dubai his whole life, Indian guy. We started connecting, became one of our friends pretty much. I'd say less of a client, more of a friend. Ended up like putting his villa on the market for rent at the time. He wanted to rent out his villa in Emirates Hills. And then from that villa, I ended up getting certain clients, ended up getting this European guy and his wife, beautiful family, inquiring on Emirates Hills villa. Didn't work for them. It was a little bit more of Indian style, so it was not the European taste. But as I was just shopping around for them, I ended up finding, through one of my other contacts, another villa in Sakin. And I thought, I'll just picture them because it matches their aesthetic. And long story short, they came to the villa, fell in love with it. Beautiful 4-story high villa, about 20,000 square foot, 8 bedrooms, lift, like fully spanked. One of the most beautiful homes I've ever been in, and I've been here for nearly 2 years now. Stunning villa. And they ended up renting it. Was my first huge big deal, 6-figure leasing deal, which is like more or less unheard of. And that was a split deal. So that would have been 200K on the board, which is 100,000 take home for me. If it was my whole deal, which is crazy sums for leasing. These are unheard numbers.
It's bigger than sales deals.
Yeah.
Some sales deals.
And it all came from a TikTok.
Yeah.
Wow, that is interesting.
That's crazy, huh?
It's just,
Yeah.
I remember at the time as well, I think you went to like a pool party related to that as well.
Yeah.
And you just asked me, do you think I should do this on the midweek when you've got work tomorrow? And I was just like, that's the thing, like we do things in different ways sometimes. It's so fun to watch the other person do what they do and like how it comes off as well. And even like the hat and you sold, like I think the learning effect from that is sometimes in real estate, you never know when it's going to land. Like you could do this incredible marketing. You've been speaking to the owner for months. You bring the property to market. You get everyone excited. You have viewings. Like you have an open house. You get inquiries. You're pitching it to all your colleagues internally. But you never know which one's going to buy. You never know which one's going to land. And sometimes it just comes out of nowhere. Sometimes this client comes on like, yeah, they're ready to buy it. And it's having that patience that you're doing everything right. It's all going along. Like, again, reflect. Is there anything I can do more? And a question when we're taking it all the way back to London now, this is what we always remind ourselves is when we was not even mentioning Dubai, we was talking about our corporate jobs. Adam said to me, can you do more? And that's when I stopped and reflected on myself. I was like, what do you actually mean by that? He's like, yeah, you're doing great, but can you do more? Like whether it's in gym or at work or like, you know, building a side hustle and whatnot, can you do more? And that question has always come in. It's like, it's a joke in some ways, but it also has serious connotations where it's just like, yeah, you're doing amazing stuff, but can you do more? And the question's now evolved is, it's not can you do more, it's why haven't you? Because we always know we can take it to another level. No matter what it is, we know we can take it, whether it's selling a higher property, breaking a leasing deal, breaking a sales record as well. And that's what we're here for. We're here for the trophies as well, because we're not just here to make money. It's the wider success that we've been discussing throughout this podcast as well, right?
So tell me more about the TV show that you guys were in.
Yeah, it's ironic. It started at my house in East London. So Jake obviously pitched this whole idea of coming to Dubai real estate, and I've got caught up in his momentum and enthusiasm for the idea, and I spun it with him. And then we're both accepting now, and we're looking forward to joining Dubai, and obviously all the opportunities are out here. But we get a call out of the blue saying, would you like to be on TV? And I was like, hold on a second. Let's just rewind a step. Where's this come from? And the head of HR recruitment at our company said, there's an opportunity. We've been gifted with the chance to be recorded or televised. What's a day in the life of Dubai brokers like for like the first 4 months or the last 4 months of 2021? And obviously where Jake and I were in a unique position where we are coming from London to Dubai, two together, obviously leaving these corporate jobs behind. The story somewhat wrote itself. It's like, obviously it's a very unique sort of situation to occur. So at the same time, we were preparing for obviously to buy real estate. We were going through an interview process, explaining our stories and talking to the media team at BBC about why we would be a good fit for the show. And then I guess the rest is history, go on iPlayer.
Yeah, called Dubai Hustle. It's when we first came out, just learning everything, like being filmed at the same time. It was just crazy. Like now looking back at it, it's just like the schedules was all merged together. Like some days we were filming at Atlantis, like in between doing viewings and deals and whatnot. And it's just, that was very intense period for the first few months, but like what an opportunity, right? To be filmed on your first few months in Dubai, like learning real estate and whatnot as well. But yeah, it was good fun as well at the same time.